thought she would cry on Christmas Day because he intended to give her the divorce papers. But she gave him a gift he never expected that broke him. The moment Julian Ashford opened that small gold box, everything he thought he knew about his wife, his marriage, and himself shattered into a million pieces. "What is this, Mira?" His voice came out as barely a whisper. His hands trembled as he held the leather journal, pages falling open to reveal photographs he had never seen. His wife standing in a refugee camp. His wife holding a child's hand in a war zone. His wife receiving awards from world leaders. "Keep reading." Mira's voice was steady, calm, not a single tear in her eyes. She stood before him like a woman who had already won a battle he did not even know they were fighting. Julian turned more pages. Documents, letters from the United Nations, a foundation that had resettled over 200 refugee families. Documentaries that had changed international policies. "You were pregnant when you left me. I found out 2 weeks after our divorce was finalized." Julian's blood ran cold as he processed her words. "And you never told me." Mira's laugh was bitter and painful. "Tell you what, Julian, that the woman you divorced for being unable to have children was pregnant with triplets. That your barren ex-wife was carrying 3 babies while you were planning your engagement to Patricia Melbourne." Julian felt like he had been punched in the chest. Triplets. Lily, James, and Noah. They are 8 years old now, brilliant and perfect in every way. And they have grown up just fine without knowing their father exists. Have you ever been so certain about someone that you stopped actually seeing them? Have you ever dismissed someone's dreams only to discover they were changing the world while you were not paying attention? Have you ever planned to throw someone away, only to realize they were worth more than everything you had ever built? What would you do if the person you underestimated turned out to be living a life so extraordinary that your entire existence paled in comparison? This is the story of a billionaire CEO who thought he was giving his wife divorce papers for Christmas. He expected tears. He expected begging. He expected her to crumble. But instead, she gave him a gift that broke him open and forced him to confront the devastating truth. The woman he had dismissed as simple and naive had been saving lives while he counted money. The wife he called a decorative fixture had built a legacy of compassion that dwarfed his empire of numbers. And the children he had wanted so desperately. They had existed all along, growing up without him, thriving without him, loving a mother who had done everything alone. Stay with me to discover what happens when a man's carefully constructed world comes crashing down around him, and whether the ashes can give birth to something worth saving. If you believe that the people we underestimate often have the most to teach us, hit that like button right now. And if you have ever been dismissed by someone who could not see your true worth, drop a comment below, because this story is for you. Now let me take you back to where it all began. The snow fell in delicate spirals outside the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Ashford penthouse, dusting Manhattan in white silence. From his study, Julian Ashford watched the flakes descend like confetti for a celebration he had no intention of joining. On his mahogany desk, beside a crystal decanter of aged whiskey, lay a manila envelope thick with legal documents. Divorce papers, his Christmas gift to a marriage he had long considered a mistake. At 41, Julian Ashford commanded one of the largest investment firms on Wall Street. His name appeared in Forbes regularly. His face graced the covers of financial magazines. His word could make or break companies worth billions. He was a man who prided himself on precision, on making difficult decisions without sentiment clouding his judgment. This was simply another calculated move. He picked up the envelope, testing its weight in his hands. Everything was in order. His lawyers had worked through the holiday to ensure every clause was airtight, every contingency addressed. Mira would receive $5 million, $1 million per year of marriage. It seemed fair, even generous, for a woman who had contributed nothing but her presence at charity galas and corporate dinners. Julian poured himself a drink, the amber liquid catching the light of the Christmas tree Mira had insisted on decorating herself. She had spent 3 days on that ridiculous tree, humming carols and hanging ornaments with a joy he found almost childlike. Naive. That was the word that came to mind whenever he thought about his wife now. Naive and simple, pleasant enough to look at, skilled enough at small talk to navigate his social circles, but ultimately empty of the ambition and drive that Julian valued. He took a long sip of his whiskey, letting it burn down his throat. She would cry, of course. That was inevitable. 5 years of marriage did not end without some emotional display. But Mira had always been reasonable, even in her simplicity. She would understand that he was doing what was best for both of them. She would accept the generous settlement. She would move on to find someone who could appreciate her quieter nature. And Julian would be free to pursue the life he actually wanted. His phone buzzed on the desk. A text message from a number saved simply as fifth. "Missing you tonight. When will you be free?" Julian smiled, a genuine expression that rarely crossed his face these days. Vivian Harrington, the CFO's daughter, 29 years old, ambitious as they came, with a mind for business that matched his own. They had been seeing each other for 8 months now, and every moment with her confirmed what Julian had suspected for years. He had married the wrong woman. Soon, he typed back, "Tonight is the night I handle things with Mira. By New Year, we can stop hiding." Vivian's response came immediately. "I cannot wait." "You deserve to be happy, Julian." He did deserve to be happy. That was what made this decision so clear. Julian Ashford had spent his entire life building an empire, and he deserved a partner who matched his ambition. Not a woman who got excited about Christmas trees and spent her days doing whatever it was Mira did with her time. What did she even do all day? Julian realized he had no idea. She mentioned charity work occasionally, visits to old friends, wellness retreats. Nothing that required much thought or skill. Nothing that contributed to their household beyond basic maintenance. She was decorative. That was the kindest way to put it. He remembered the woman he had married 5 years ago. That Mira had been different. Bright-eyed and full of dreams about changing the world through her documentary work. She had been a rising filmmaker when they met, her documentaries on humanitarian crises earning recognition at smaller festivals. She talked about stories that needed telling, about using her camera as a weapon against injustice. Julian had found her passion charming at first, a pleasant distraction from the cold calculations of his daily life. But passion did not pay for penthouses, dreams did not secure a social standing. And slowly, deliberately, Julian had encouraged Mira to step back from her career. "There are corporate events to attend," he had told her. "Important clients to entertain, a household to manage. Your little films can wait." And wait they had. For 5 years, Mira had waited while Julian built his empire higher and higher. She had become exactly what he had shaped her to be, a decorative fixture in his carefully curated life. Now, like any fixture that no longer served its purpose, it was time for replacement. Julian drained his whiskey and stood, adjusting his tie in the mirror behind his desk. He looked good for 41, distinguished, powerful, the kind of man who commanded rooms and intimidated rivals, the kind of man who deserved a wife who matched his stature. The study door opened, interrupting his reflection. Mira stood in the soft glow of the hallway light, and even now, Julian could not deny her beauty. Dark hair falling in waves past her shoulders, brown eyes that still held traces of something he could not quite name. She wore a simple cream sweater and jeans, utterly underdressed for what he had planned as their final Christmas Eve together. "You have been in here all evening. The Halversons are arriving in an hour for dinner. Should you not be getting ready?" "Cancel it." Mira blinked, clearly surprised. "Cancel Christmas Eve dinner. Julian, they are your biggest investors. Mrs. Halverson specifically requested the white truffle risotto. I spent 3 hours with the caterers yesterday ensuring everything was perfect. I said cancel it." His voice was cold, precise, the same tone he used in boardrooms when negotiations were not going his way. "We need to talk. Alone." Something shifted in Mira's expression. Julian watched her carefully, expecting confusion or perhaps the first tremor of fear. Instead, he saw something else entirely. A flicker of understanding, maybe even resignation. She had always been more perceptive than he gave her credit for. "All right. Let me just make the call." She disappeared down the hallway, and Julian heard her voice, apologetic and gracious, explaining to the Halversons that an unexpected situation had arisen. A family matter. She was so sorry. She would make it up to them in the new year. Julian turned back to the window, steeling himself for what came next. He had rehearsed this moment a dozen times in his head. He would be firm, but not cruel. Direct, but not vindictive. He would explain that their marriage had simply run its course, that they wanted different things, that she deserved someone who could appreciate her simpler nature. The settlement was generous, more than generous. Mira would be comfortable for the rest of her life. She should be grateful, really. When she returned, Julian noticed she carried a small box wrapped in gold paper. His jaw tightened with irritation. Of course she had gotten him a gift, probably some sentimental trinket, a photograph in an expensive frame. Perhaps a first edition of some book he had once mentioned in passing. Mira had always been painfully attentive to those small details, cataloging his offhand comments like they actually mattered. "Before you say whatever it is you need to say," Mira's voice was steady, unnervingly so, "I would like you to open this. Please. Mira, this is not the time for gifts. Humor me." She set the box on his desk, right beside the manila envelope he had not yet revealed. The two packages sat side by side, his ending and whatever sentimental gesture she had prepared. "After 5 years, I think I have earned that much." Julian studied her face, searching for the tears he had expected, the trembling lip, the desperate pleading. Instead, he found an unsettling calm, a quiet strength that did not match the fragile woman he thought he knew. Something was wrong, or rather, something was different. With an impatient sigh, he took the box and tore away the gold paper. Inside lay a leather-bound journal, worn at the edges, clearly well used. Not new, not purchased for this occasion. This was something that had been lived in. Julian frowned, lifting it from the box. "What is this?" "Open it." He did, and the first page stopped his breath. For Julian, the truth you never asked for. The handwriting was Mira's, elegant and precise, but the words made no sense. What truth? What had he never asked for? Confused, he turned the page. A photograph. Mira, years younger, standing before a massive UNHCR tent in what appeared to be a refugee camp. She held a camera in one hand and a young child's hand in the other. Both of them were smiling despite the obvious hardship surrounding them. Julian's confusion deepened as he turned more pages. More photographs. Dozens of them. Mira in what looked like Syria. Mira in South Sudan. Mira accepting an award from someone who looked distinctly like a United Nations official. Letters of commendation. Official documents. News clippings in languages he did not speak. "I do not understand." His voice sounded foreign to his own ears. "Keep reading." Julian's hands had begun to tremble without his permission. He turned more pages, and the story that emerged was one he never could have imagined. The Horizon Project, a foundation Mira had apparently started. Statistics about refugee families resettled. Documentaries screened at international film festivals. Policy changes influenced by her work. Awards from humanitarian organizations whose names he recognized from news coverage. Over 200 families helped. Thousands of lives touched. An empire of compassion built entirely without his knowledge. Julian looked up at his wife, at the stranger wearing his wife's face. "You did all of this." Mira's expression gave away nothing. "Keep reading. There is more." Julian turned to the final pages of the journal, where he found a letter written in Mira's careful handwriting. "Julian, if you are reading this, then tonight is the night you plan to end our marriage. I have known for 3 months. Vivienne is not as discreet as she thinks she is, and neither is your executive assistant, who happens to be the sister of a woman I helped bring to this country from Syria." Julian's blood ran cold. She knew. She had known for 3 months. "I want you to know that I am not angry. Perhaps I should be. Perhaps a stronger woman would rage against the betrayal, against the years of being made to, feel small against the casual cruelty of being treated as an ornament rather than a partner. But the truth is, Julian, I stopped needing your validation years ago. I stopped needing your love the day I realized you were not capable of giving it. Not to me, not to anyone." His throat tightened as he continued reading. "What I want you to understand is this. While you were building your empire of numbers and acquisitions, I was building something too. Not to prove you wrong, though there is a certain satisfaction in that, but because the girl you married, the one with the camera and the dreams you thought were naive, she never disappeared. You just stopped looking for her. I am leaving tonight. Not because you asked me to, but because I finally realized I deserve a life where I do not have to hide the best parts of myself. The foundation is called the Horizon Project. Look it up. See the faces of the children we have saved, the families we have reunited, the communities we have helped rebuild. That is what I was doing while you thought I was shopping or planning. Dinner parties or whatever you imagined filled my empty hours. The settlement you are about to offer, I do not want it. The prenup you made me sign, consider it honored. I came into this marriage with nothing that mattered to you, and I am leaving with everything that matters to me. Merry Christmas, Julian. I hope someday you find whatever it is that has made you so afraid to love. Mira." Julian looked up from the journal, his chest tight with something he could not name. The study felt smaller somehow, the walls closing in around the careful architecture of his certainties. You knew. His voice came out as barely a whisper. You knew about the divorce, about Vivian. For months, Mira's calm had not wavered. Not once. Did you think I did not notice when you stopped coming home? When the business trips extended and the excuses became more elaborate? Julian, I may have played the role of the simple wife you wanted, but I was never actually simple. Why did you not say anything? Would it have mattered? She tilted her head, studying him with an expression that made him feel exposed in a way he had never experienced. You had already made up your mind about who I was. Every time I tried to share my work, you dismissed it. That is nice, dear. Maybe when things slow down. Perhaps focus on something more local. Julian flinched, recognizing his own words thrown back at him. After a while, I stopped trying to convince you, and I just lived my life. Julian sank into his leather chair, the journal still clutched in his hands. He thought of all the evenings he had come home late to find Mira reading or watching television, looking for all the world like a woman with nothing to do. He thought of the trips she took to visit old friends or attend wellness retreats. Trips he had barely noticed because he was too wrapped up in his own world. He thought of her modest requests for money, always for charitable donations he had approved without question because the amounts seemed insignificant compared to his daily transactions. He had been so certain he understood her, so absolutely convinced of his own superior judgment. The children, he said suddenly, remembering the photographs, the ones in the camps. You actually went there, to Syria, to South Sudan, 12 times over 5 years. Mira's voice carried no pride, just simple statement of fact. Some of those children are in college now, Julian. One of them is studying medicine at NYU on a scholarship the foundation provides. Her name is Yasmin. She was 7 when I first met her, living in a tent with her grandmother because the rest of her family had been killed in an airstrike. Julian's throat tightened. He thought of the dinners they had attended, the champagne they had sipped, the millions he had spent on art he did not love and cars he rarely drove, while Mira had been in refugee camps, holding cameras in children's hands. Why tell me now? His voice was barely above a whisper. Why not just leave? Take your foundation, your documentaries, your entire hidden life, and go. Why show me any of this? Mira was quiet for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her voice carried a sadness that pierced something deep within him. Because I loved you once. Really, truly loved you. And some foolish part of me hoped that if you saw who I really was, who I had become despite everything you tried to make me, maybe you would finally see what you threw away. Julian felt something crack inside his chest. Not so you would want me back. I do not want that anymore. But so you would understand that the emptiness in your life is not because you have not acquired enough. It is because you have spent so long taking that you have forgotten how to give. She walked to the window, standing where he had stood earlier, watching the snow continue its gentle descent. You are going to marry Vivian, or someone like her. Someone who matches your spreadsheets and satisfies your board of directors. And for a while, you will convince yourself you are happy. But someday, Julian, maybe when your hair is gray and your empire is secure and you are sitting alone in some penthouse exactly like this one, you will remember this moment. She turned to face him, and Julian saw tears in her eyes for the first time. But they were not tears of grief. They were tears of release. You will remember that your wife of 5 years built a legacy of compassion and courage right under your nose, and you were too busy counting your money to notice. Julian stared at the journal in his hands, at the photographs of smiling children and grateful families, at the letters of commendation from world leaders and humanitarian organizations. His wife, his quiet, simple, ornamental wife, had been changing the world while he had been too blind to see it. I was wrong. The words came out before he could stop them. About everything. I was so incredibly wrong. Yes, you were. Mira's voice was gentle now, more pitying than angry. But that is ancient history now. Is it? Julian looked at her, really looked at her, and saw not the woman he had dismissed, but the woman she had always been. Because seeing you here, like this, Mira, you are amazing. You became everything I always knew you could be. I became everything I needed to be for myself. I am proud of you. Mira's laugh was bitter. Your pride means nothing to me, Julian. I do not need your validation or approval. I stopped needing anything from you the day you signed our divorce papers." The words hit him like physical blows. He deserved every one of them. "Mira, please, can we just talk? Really talk?" "About what?" She crossed her arms and Julian saw the steel beneath her calm exterior. "About how you were right to leave me. About how Patricia Melbourne turned out to be the perfect wife you needed." Julian frowned. "Patricia Melbourne, that was 9 years ago. We are talking about Vivian." Mira's expression flickered with something he could not read. "Of course, Vivian, the current replacement." She shook her head. "It does not matter, Julian. The names change. The pattern does not." Julian set down the journal and stood, moving toward her. "What if the pattern could change? What if I could change?" Mira held up her hand, stopping him. Do not you dare start with regrets and what ifs. You made your choice 9 years ago when you married Patricia. You made another choice when that marriage ended, and you chose me as your next project, and now you're making another choice with Vivian." Julian's head spun. "Wait, what do you mean 9 years ago? We have only been married for 5 years. Mira studied his face and something in her expression shifted. "You really do not remember, do you?" "Remember what?" She was quiet for a long moment. "Sit down, Julian. There is something else you need to know. Something I debated whether to tell you at all. But here is what Julian did not know, what he could not possibly have known. The woman standing before him was not just his wife of 5 years. She was someone from his past, someone whose life he had shattered long before he ever thought to marry her. And the secret she was about to reveal would break him more completely than anything in that journal ever could. Right now, Julian is beginning to understand what he is actually losing. But the biggest revelation is still to come. Before we continue, if you are invested in this story, take a moment to subscribe and hit that notification bell, because you will not want to miss what happens next. And tell me in the comments, do you think Mira should have told Julian the truth years ago, or was she right to keep it hidden? Mira reached into the gold box one more time. Julian had not noticed there was something else inside, hidden beneath where the journal had rested. A small envelope. She held it out to him, and Julian took it with trembling hands. Inside was a photograph, an ultrasound image with a date from 2 months ago. His world stopped. "What is this?" His voice broke on the question. "What it looks like." Mira's hand moved to her stomach, a protective gesture he had seen 1,000 times in other women but never noticed in his own wife. "I found out 6 weeks ago. I was going to tell you at Thanksgiving, but then I discovered the truth about Vivian." Julian stared at the ultrasound, at the tiny form barely visible in the grainy image. "And I realized that if you could plan to leave me while I was carrying your child, without even knowing it, then you were never the man I thought you might become. You are pregnant. Yes, and you were not going to tell me. I am telling you now." Mira's voice was firm despite the tears that had begun to fall. "But not because I expect anything from you, not because I want you to stay. I am telling you because this child deserves to know who their father really is someday." Julian felt the room spin around him. Not the man on the magazine covers or the man who controls boardrooms. The real man. The one who was given the chance to be different and either took it or walked away. "You cannot leave." The words came out desperate, pleading. "Not like this. Not when you are carrying my child." "I can, and I will." Mira moved toward the door. "My lawyer will be in touch after the holidays with my own terms. I want nothing from you financially. I have made my own money, built my own success. But this child will know the truth about both of us." "Mira, wait. Please." Julian reached for her, but she stepped back. "They will know that their mother spent her life trying to make the world a little less cruel. And they will know that their father—" She paused, her hand on the doorframe. "Well, that is up to you now, is it not?" She was gone before Julian could find words. The soft click of the front door closing echoed through the penthouse like a verdict. And then there was only silence. Silence and snowfall and the shattering of everything he thought he knew. Julian stood frozen in the middle of his study, the ultrasound image still clutched in his hand. The manila envelope with the divorce papers sat untouched on his desk. The Christmas tree lights blinked their festive patterns to an empty room. He had planned this evening down to the last detail: the dismissal of the dinner guests, the calm conversation in his study, the presentation of fair and generous terms, Mira's tears, her eventual acceptance, his freedom. Instead, He stood alone in the wreckage of his own assumptions, holding evidence of a life he had never known existed. A foundation that had saved hundreds of lives. A wife who had traveled to war zones while he thought she was at spa retreats. A child growing inside her at this very moment. Julian's legs gave out, and he sank back into his leather chair. The journal lay open on his desk, Mira's face smiling up at him from a photograph taken in some refugee camp on the other side of the world. How had he missed it? How had he spent 5 years living with this woman and never seen who she really was? But he knew the answer. He had not missed it. He had refused to look. Every time she tried to share her work, she had said, "You dismissed it. That is nice, dear. Maybe when things slow down, perhaps focus on something more local." His own words, his own casual cruelty, his own systematic dismissal of everything that made her extraordinary. Julian picked up the journal and began to read from the beginning. Really read, this time. Not scanning for information, but absorbing every detail. The first entry was dated 5 years ago, just months after their wedding. "I have decided to restart my work. Julian does not need to know. He has made it clear that my little films are not a priority, and I am tired of fighting for space in a marriage that has none. So, I will create my own space, somewhere he will never think to look." Julian's throat tightened as he turned the pages. Entry after entry documented Mira's journey. The initial funding from her trust fund, which he had dismissed as modest. The first trip to Jordan, where she had connected with refugee aid organizations. The faces of children she had met. Their names and stories recorded with care. Yasmin, age 7, lost her parents in an airstrike. Lives with her grandmother in Section C of the camp. She wants to be a doctor when she grows up. She asked me if I could bring her medical books next time. I said yes. Julian thought of the books Mira had ordered online, packages arriving at their penthouse that he had never bothered to examine. He had assumed she was buying things for herself. Decorative items, clothes, the frivolous purchases of a woman with too much time and too little purpose. Instead, she had been sending medical textbooks to a 7-year-old refugee who dreamed of saving lives. The entries continued, year after year, the foundation growing, the documentaries being filmed, awards being won at festivals Julian had never heard of because he had never thought to ask. One entry stopped him cold. "Julian asked me today what I do all day. He genuinely does not know. He has no idea that I spent last week in South Sudan, that I held a dying child in my arms while waiting for medical supplies that arrived too late. He does not know that I came home and cried in the shower so he would not hear me. He asked what I do all day, and I told him I went shopping. He believed me." Julian closed the journal. He could not read anymore, not tonight. He reached for his whiskey, then stopped. Alcohol would not help. Nothing would help. His phone buzzed on the desk. Vivienne again. How did it go? "Are you free now?" Julian stared at the message. He thought about Vivienne, her ambition, her connections, her family's approval of their relationship, everything that had made her seem like the right choice. Then he thought about Mira, her courage, her compassion, her refusal to let his dismissal define her. He had thrown away gold in favor of glitter, and now the gold was walking out of his life, carrying his child. "It is over," he typed to Vivienne. "Everything is over." He turned off his phone before she could respond. The hours passed in silence. The Christmas tree lights blinked on and off. The snow continued to fall outside the windows, and Julian sat alone in the darkness, holding a journal full of evidence of his own blindness. At some point, well past midnight, he found himself at his computer. His fingers moved automatically, typing the Horizon project into the search bar. The website that appeared was elegant and professional, nothing like the amateur operation he might have expected. This was a serious organization, with serious backing and serious impact. The homepage featured a photograph of a family, Syrian refugees, based on the caption. Mother, father, 3 children, all smiling in front of a modest apartment building. The Nazari family arrived in the United States with nothing but the clothes on their backs. Today, 5 years later, their eldest daughter is in college on a full scholarship. Their son has started his own small business, and both parents are employed in their fields of expertise. This is the power of hope. This is the power of second chances. Julian clicked through page after page. Testimonials from families who had been helped, statistics about the scope of the foundation's work, news articles from international outlets praising the organization's innovative approach. And there, on the About page, was his wife's face. Not the polished society wife who attended his galas and made small talk with his clients. This was someone else entirely. A woman in field clothing, her hair pulled back, her smile bright and genuine in a way he had never seen at home. Mira Delacroix Ashford founded the Horizon Project with a simple belief that every human being deserves the chance to rebuild their life with dignity. What began as a one-woman documentary mission has grown into an international organization that has helped thousands of displaced families find safety, stability, and hope. Thousands. Julian closed his laptop and stared at the darkness beyond his window. Somewhere out there, his wife was carrying his child. Somewhere out there, children he had never met were sleeping safely because a woman he had called naive had refused to stop dreaming. And here he sat, surrounded by luxury he did not need, holding divorce papers for a marriage he had already destroyed. What had he become? The question echoed in the silence of the penthouse. Julian thought of his father, Charles Ashford, a man who measured everything in profit margins and quarterly returns, a man who had never once told Julian he was proud of him, only that he had failed to meet expectations. "You will never amount to anything if you keep wasting time on that writing nonsense," his father had said when Julian was 14, a boy with dreams of becoming a novelist. Ashfords build empires. We do not waste time on fantasy. Julian had put away his notebooks that day. He had buried the boy who loved stories and became the man his father demanded. Cold, calculating, focused on nothing but success. And now, 30 years later, he sat alone in a penthouse full of success, and he had never felt more like a failure. Dawn broke over Manhattan, while Julian was still awake. The Christmas lights on the tree had finally stopped blinking, the timer having shut them off at 6 in the morning. The snow had stopped falling, leaving the city blanketed in white. Julian had not moved from his chair. The journal lay open in his lap. The ultrasound image was propped against his whiskey glass, the tiny form inside barely visible but unmistakably real. His child, his and Mira's, growing inside a woman who was walking away from him because he had failed to see her, failed to value her, failed to be the man she deserved. Julian's phone buzzed again. He had turned it back on an hour ago, dreading but expecting Vivian's messages. Instead, it was a calendar reminder. Christmas Day, 8 a.m. Brunch at the Harrington estate. Confirm attendance. The Harringtons, Vivian's family. He had promised to attend their Christmas brunch as an unofficial announcement of their relationship. Julian deleted the reminder. Then he deleted Vivian's contact information entirely. It was a start. A small one, but a start. He picked up the journal again and turned to the final pages. Past Mira's letter, there were more entries. Recent ones, from the past few weeks. November 30th, I am pregnant. The irony is almost too much to bear. Julian has spent 5 years subtly implying that I am not enough for him, that I lack ambition and purpose. And now I am carrying his child while running an organization that has helped more people than his precious investment firm ever will. I wonder what he would say if he knew. December 5th, Vivian Harrington. Of course it would be someone like her, someone from the right family, with the right connections, who says all the right things. Someone who reminds Julian of everything he thinks he should want. I used to be hurt by his betrayal. Now I just feel sorry for him. He's going to spend the rest of his life chasing validation from people who will never truly know him. December 20th, I have made my decision. I will tell Julian the truth on Christmas Eve. Not for his sake, but for mine. I have spent 5 years hiding who I really am, and I am tired. I want him to know what he is losing. I want him to understand that the woman he dismissed was worth more than he ever imagined. And then I want to walk away and never look back. Julian closed the journal. She had planned this. Every detail. She had known what he was going to do, and she had prepared her response with precision and care. He had underestimated her, in every possible way, for 5 years. And now, she was gone. Julian stood from his chair, his body aching from the long night. He walked to the window and looked out at the city. Below, families would be waking up now, excited for Christmas morning. Children would be running to their trees to see what presents awaited them. Parents would be sipping coffee and savoring the joy on their faces. He had never had a Christmas like that. Not as a child, not as an adult. And if things did not change, he never would. His child, the one growing inside Mira at this very moment. That child could have Christmases filled with warmth and love. Or that child could grow up the way Julian had, learning that success was more important than connection. It depended on what Julian did next. He looked down at his hands, the same hands that had signed countless business deals and shaken hands with powerful men. The same hands that had held the divorce papers he thought would set him free. Those hands were empty now, but they did not have to stay that way. Julian Ashford, billionaire CEO and master of the calculated decision, made a choice in that moment. He would not let this be the end. He would find a way to become the man his child deserved. And maybe, just maybe, he would find a way to become the man Mira had once believed he could be. In the space of one evening, Julian Ashford lost everything he did not know he had. A wife who was changing the world, a child he had never known existed, a chance at a love he had never deserved but might have earned. The question now was, what would he do with the ruins of his certainty? Would he crumble? Would he retreat into the cold calculations that had defined his life? Would he find comfort in Vivienne and pretend this night had never happened? Or would he find the courage to break open, to look honestly at the man he had become, to fight for a chance he did not deserve? The weeks that followed Christmas Eve were the darkest of Julian Ashford's life. He stopped going to the office. His executive team handled the daily operations while he sat alone in his penthouse, reading and rereading the journal Mira had left behind. Every page was another indictment, every photograph another reminder of everything he had failed to see. Vivienne called repeatedly, then texted, then showed up at his building demanding to be let in. Julian refused to see her. "Tell her I am unavailable," he instructed his doorman. Permanently, the tabloids caught wind of the scandal within days. Someone at the Harrington Company had leaked information about the affair, and suddenly Julian's face was plastered across every gossip site in the city. Billionaire CEO's marriage implodes on Christmas Eve. Wall Street titan's secret affair exposed. The Ashford empire crumbles as CEO goes missing. Julian read every article. He deserved every word. But worse than the public humiliation was the private devastation. The knowledge that Mira was out there somewhere, carrying his child, building her extraordinary life, and wanting nothing to do with him. He had tried to contact her. Emails returned undelivered. Phone calls going straight to voicemail. A letter sent to her foundation's address returned unopened. She had meant what she said. She was done. And Julian had no one to blame but himself. 3 weeks after Christmas, Julian's physician called with concerning news. "Mr. Ashford, your blood pressure is dangerously elevated. Your cortisol levels are through the roof. If you do not make significant lifestyle changes immediately, you are looking at serious cardiac complications within the year." Julian laughed bitterly. Perhaps that would be fitting. "I am serious, Julian. You need to address whatever is causing this stress. Therapy, meditation, something. Your body is shutting down." Julian hung up the phone and stared at the wall of his study. The same wall where Mira's journal now sat on a shelf, spine facing outward like an accusation. Therapy. The word felt foreign. Ashford's did not do therapy. His father would have called it weakness, a crutch for people who could not handle the pressures of real life. But his father was dead, had been for 15 years, and Julian was beginning to realize that the man he had spent his whole life trying to please had left him with nothing but emptiness. He picked up his phone and searched for therapists in Manhattan. The first session was a disaster. Julian sat in a leather chair across from Dr. Eleanor Vance, a woman in her 60s with kind eyes and an unnerving ability to see right through him. "So, Mr. Ashford, what brings you here today?" "My wife left me. And how does that make you feel?" Julian stared at her. "How does it make me feel? I feel like I have been gutted. Like everything I thought I knew about myself was a lie. Like I spent 41 years building a life that means absolutely nothing." Dr. Vance nodded. "That sounds like progress." "Progress. I just told you my life is meaningless, and you recognized it. Most people in your position spend decades avoiding that realization. You have arrived at it in a matter of weeks. That is not nothing." Julian left the session feeling raw and exposed. He went back the next week anyway, and the week after that, and the week after that. Slowly, painfully, he began to unpack the architecture of his own dysfunction. His father's emotional unavailability, his mother's performative affection that disappeared the moment guests left the house, the systematic crushing of any desire that did not align with the Ashford family expectations. "You learned very early that love was conditional," Dr. Vance observed during one session. That your worth was determined by your achievements, not by who you were as a person. Is that not how the world works? It is how your world worked. It does not have to be how your world continues to work. Julian thought about Mira, about the unconditional love she had offered him for 5 years while he dismissed and diminished her. I had someone who loved me for who I was, and I threw her away because she did not fit my spreadsheet. Dr. Vance leaned forward. The question is not whether you made a mistake. You clearly did. The question is what you are going to do about it. She does not want me. She made that very clear. I am not talking about her. I am talking about you. Who do you want to become, Julian? If you strip away your father's expectations and your company's demands and society's definitions of success, who is the man you actually want to be? Julian had no answer, but for the first time in his life he wanted to find one. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon in late February. Julian was in his study, working through another set of exercises Dr. Vance had assigned. He was supposed to be journaling about his earliest memories of feeling valued for something other than achievement. The page was still blank. His phone rang. An unknown number. He almost let it go to voicemail. Then something made him answer. Hello? Mr. Ashford, this is Dr. Patricia Chen at Mount Sinai Hospital. I am calling because you are listed as the emergency contact for Mira Delacroix Ashford. Julian's heart stopped. Is she okay? What happened? Ms. Delacroix Ashford was brought in this morning with complications related to her pregnancy. She is stable now, but we would like family to be present. She is asking for you. She is asking for me. Julian could not process the words. Mira had cut him off completely. She had returned every letter, ignored every call, made it clear she wanted nothing to do with him. And now she was asking for him. I am on my way. He was at the hospital in 20 minutes. A new record for Manhattan traffic, achieved through a combination of reckless driving and sheer desperation. The maternity ward was quiet when he arrived. A nurse directed him to a private room at the end of the hallway. Julian paused outside the door, his hand trembling on the handle. What if she had changed her mind? What if she took one look at him and demanded he leave? What if this was a mistake? He pushed open the door anyway. Mira lay in the hospital bed, looking smaller than he had ever seen her, pale, exhausted, but alive. You came. Her voice was weak but clear. Of course I came. Julian moved to her bedside, unsure whether he was allowed to touch her. He settled for standing close, his hands clenched at his sides. What happened? The doctor said complications. Preeclampsia. My blood pressure spiked. They are managing it, but I have to stay on bed rest for the remainder of the pregnancy. How far along are you now? 22 weeks. Julian did the math. She'd been almost 4 months pregnant on Christmas Eve, and now, 2 months later, she was barely past the halfway point. I should have been here. The words came out before he could stop them. I should have found a way to reach you, to be part of this. Instead, I sat in my penthouse feeling sorry for myself while you were dealing with all of this. Alone. Mira studied his face. Julian saw something shift in her expression. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But perhaps a softening. I did not want to call you. I told the nurse to contact my assistant instead. But she put you down as my emergency contact before I could stop her. I am glad she did. Julian moved closer, and this time he let himself reach for her hand. She did not pull away. I have been in therapy, twice a week since January. I have been trying to understand why I became the man I became, why I hurt you the way I did. Mira's eyes widened slightly. Therapy, I know. Julian Ashford in therapy. My father is probably spinning in his grave. A ghost of a smile crossed Mira's face. What have you learned? That I have been emotionally unavailable my entire life because that is what was modeled for me. That I measured people's worth by their utility because that is how I was measured. That I dismissed your dreams because they threatened my narrow definition of success. He paused, gathering courage, and that I loved you. I loved you from the moment we met. I just did not know how to show it in any way that mattered. Mira was quiet for a long moment. That is not enough, Julian. Words are not enough. I know. That is why I'm not asking for anything. I'm just telling you where I am, what I am trying to become. He squeezed her hand gently. You do not owe me forgiveness. You do not owe me a relationship. You do not owe me anything. But I am asking if you will let me to be present for the rest of this pregnancy. To be in the delivery room if you want me there. To be part of this child's life, even if I can never be part of yours again." Mira's eyes glistened with tears. "Why should I trust you? You should not. Not yet. Trust has to be earned, and I have done nothing to earn it. But I am asking for the chance to try." The silence stretched between them. Julian held his breath. Finally, Mira spoke. "You can come to the appointments. You can be in the delivery room. But we are not getting back together, Julian. That part of our story is over." "I understand. Do you? Because I need you to really hear this. I am not keeping a door open for reconciliation. I am not waiting for you to prove yourself so we can try again. We are done as a couple. If you cannot accept that, you should not be here." Julian felt the words like a knife to his chest. But he also felt something else. Clarity. "I accept it. If all I can ever be is a co-parent to our child, I will spend the rest of my life being the best co-parent I can be. You deserve that. Our child deserves that." Mira nodded slowly. "Okay then. My next appointment is Thursday at 10. Do not be late." I would not dream of it. The months that followed were the most difficult and most rewarding of Julian's life. He attended every appointment, sat beside Mira in every waiting room, watched their daughter grow on ultrasound screens, marveling at tiny fingers and tiny toes and a heartbeat that sounded like the most beautiful music he had ever heard. Mira remained guarded, polite but distant. She shared medical information but rarely personal thoughts. She accepted his presence but did not invite his closeness. And Julian did not push. He focused instead on becoming someone worthy of being this child's father. Someone who could model emotional availability instead of emotional absence. Someone who measured worth by character, not achievement. He stepped back from the daily operations of his company, promoting capable executives, and taking a consulting role that left him time for the work that now mattered. He sold the penthouse and bought a modest brownstone in Brooklyn, reasoning that a child needed a neighborhood, not a monument to wealth. He joined the Horizon Project as a board member, not to impress Mira, though he hoped it would not hurt, but because he had read every page of her journal and had come to understand that this work was not just important, it was essential. His first trip to a refugee camp shattered what remained of his old worldview. He had read about displacement, watched news coverage of crisis zones, approved charitable donations that he now realized had been embarrassingly small. But nothing had prepared him for the reality. Children playing in the dust between rows of tents, mothers cooking over open fires, trying to create normalcy in the midst of chaos. Fathers who had been doctors and engineers and teachers in their home countries, now reduced to waiting for bureaucratic processes that might take years. And everywhere, hope. That was what struck Julian most. Despite everything they had lost, these people still hoped, still dreamed of futures for their children, still believed that the world could be better. He thought of his penthouse, his whiskey collection, his art that cost more than entire families' annual budgets. He thought of the man he had been, measuring success by square footage and stock prices while people like these fought for survival. And he wept. One of the camp coordinators found him sitting alone behind a supply tent, tears streaming down his face. "First visit." Julian nodded, unable to speak. It hits everyone differently. Some people get angry. Some people get motivated. Some people cannot handle it and never come back. She sat down beside him. "Which one are you going to be?" Julian thought about the question, really thought about it. "I want to be useful. I want to do something that matters. I have spent my whole life accumulating things that mean nothing. I want to build something that actually helps." The coordinator nodded. "Then welcome to the work, Mr. Ashford. There is plenty to be done." The call came at 3 in the morning on a Tuesday in late August. Julian was awake immediately, his phone already in his hand before the first ring finished. "It is time." Mira's voice was tight with pain. "I am calling the car now. I will meet you at the hospital." He was there in 15 minutes. Mira was already in a delivery room, her face pale but determined. "You made it. I told you I would not miss it." Julian took his place beside her bed, unsure what to do with his hands. A nurse showed him how to help with breathing exercises, how to offer ice chips, how to be present without being in the way. The labor lasted 14 hours. 14 hours of watching Mira fight through pain with the same strength and determination that had carried her through refugee camps and boardroom dismissals and a marriage to a man who had never deserved her. 14 hours of holding her hand when she allowed it, of stepping back when she needed space, of learning, in real time, how to support someone instead of trying to control them. And then, finally, a cry. Their daughter entered the world at 5:17 in the afternoon, screaming with the full force of her tiny lungs. The nurse placed her on Mira's chest, and Julian watched as his ex-wife, this extraordinary woman he had failed so completely, dissolved into tears of joy. "She is perfect." Mira's voice was thick with emotion. "She has your stubbornness already." Julian laughed, surprising himself. "Look at her. She is beautiful." He reached out tentatively, and Mira nodded permission. His finger touched his daughter's tiny hand, and immediately those miniature fingers wrapped around it with surprising strength. Something cracked open in Julian's chest, something that had been sealed shut for decades. "Hello, little one." His voice came out as a whisper. "I am your father. I know I have not earned that title yet, but I am going to spend the rest of my life trying." He looked at Mira, at the exhaustion and joy mingling on her face. "What are we going to name her?" Mira smiled. "I was thinking Lily, after my grandmother. She was the one who first gave me a camera, told me to go out and capture the world's stories." "Lily." Julian tested the name. "It is perfect." He looked down at his daughter again, at this tiny person who represented everything he had almost lost and everything he still had the chance to become. "I love you, Lily Ashford. I promise I will never let you forget it. If you are still with me, I want you to take a moment and really think about what you have just witnessed. A man who spent his entire life closed off from emotion. A man who measured everything in transactions and returns. That man just held his daughter for the first time and made a promise. That had nothing to do with business and everything to do with love. But here is the question I want you to consider. Is one moment of breakthrough enough? Can a person really change the patterns of a lifetime just because they want to? Or does redemption require something more? Something sustained? Something proven over years, not moments? Stay with me, because what happens next will answer that question. And it might just change how you think about forgiveness, second chances, and what it really means to become a better person. But first, if this story has moved you, take a moment to share it with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who is struggling to believe that people can change. Someone who needs a reminder that it is never too late to start over. And drop a comment below telling me what moment has hit you hardest so far. I read every single one. Now let me show you what happened next. 3 years passed. 3 years of consistent, daily effort. 3 years of showing up when he said he would. 3 years of proving through action what he had promised in words. Julian and Mira never reconciled romantically. That door remained closed, as Mira had insisted it would. But something else grew between them. Something perhaps more durable than the passion they had once shared. Partnership, respect, a deep, abiding friendship built on honesty and shared devotion to their daughter. Lily was 2.5 now, with her mother's dark hair and her father's stubborn determination. She had inherited Mira's compassion too. Even at this young age, she insisted on sharing her toys with every child. She met and showed genuine distress when anyone around her seemed sad. The brownstone in Brooklyn had become Julian's home in ways the penthouse never had. The rooms were filled with Lily's artwork and Mira's photographs and books that Julian actually read instead of displaying for show. It was Christmas Eve again. Julian stood at the window watching Lily in the small backyard, her tiny hands patting snow, into the shape of what she insisted was a snowman, but looked more like a lopsided blob. "She is trying to give him her scarf." Mira's voice came from behind him. She had entered carrying 2 cups of hot chocolate, steam rising in the warm kitchen air. "She says he looks cold." Julian laughed. "She gets that from you. The stubbornness about the scarf, that is definitely from you." Julian turned from the window and accepted the cup Mira offered. Their fingers brushed briefly, and he felt the familiar mixture of gratitude and grief that always accompanied these moments. Gratitude for what they had built, grief for what they had lost. Hard to believe it has been 3 years. Mira settled into the chair across from him. "Since the night you planned to hand me divorce papers and I handed you a journal instead. The night everything changed." Julian nodded. "I was such a fool." "You were, but you are not that man anymore." She said it simply, without drama. A statement of fact. Julian felt something warm spread through his chest. "You really believe that? I would not let you near our daughter if I did not." They sat in comfortable silence, watching through the window as Lily continued her snowman construction. The afternoon light was fading, casting everything in shades of gold and amber. "There is something I want to show you." Mira pulled out her phone. "It just came through today." Julian recognized the format immediately as she turned the screen toward him. An email with an attached video from one of the Horizon Project's partner organizations in Jordan. "Play it." Mira tapped the screen, and a young woman's face appeared. She wore a graduation cap and gown, her smile bright despite the tears on her cheeks. "My name is Yasmin Khalil." The name hit Julian like a physical force. He remembered it from Mira's journal. The 7-year-old in the tent, the one who wanted to be a doctor. 7 years ago, I was living in a tent, unable to imagine any future beyond survival. I had lost my parents. I had lost my home. I had lost hope. The young woman paused, composing herself. Then a woman came to our camp with a camera and a kind heart. She held my hand. She asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up. And when I told her I wanted to be a doctor, she did not laugh or tell me it was impossible. She said she would help make it happen. Julian felt tears burning in his eyes. Today, I am graduating from medical school. I am going to become a pediatrician, and I will spend my life helping children the way the Horizon Project helped me. Yasmin looked directly into the camera. To everyone who made this possible, to Mira, who first held my hand and showed me that someone cared, to all who supported this work, whether through funding or volunteering or simply believing in what we do. Thank you. Her voice broke. You gave me my life back. You gave me hope when there was none. You are the reason I believe in humanity. The video ended. Julian sat frozen, tears streaming down his face. He thought of the man he had been 3 years ago, the one who had dismissed Mira's work as naive, the one who had thought his stock portfolio mattered more than human lives. That man would have watched this video and felt nothing, maybe a vague sense of approval, maybe a mental note to increase his charitable donations for tax purposes. This man, the one Julian had fought to become, felt everything. "Daddy." A small voice interrupted his thoughts. Lily had come in from the backyard, snow in her hair and her cheeks flushed red from the cold. "Why are you crying?" Julian wiped his face and lifted his daughter onto his lap. "Happy tears, sweetheart. Sometimes grown-ups cry when they are grateful." Lily tilted her head, considering this information with the seriousness only a toddler could muster. "What are you grateful for?" Julian looked at his daughter, at Mira, at the modest brownstone that had become a home, at the phone screen still showing Yasmin's frozen image, for second chances, and for people who are brave enough to give them. Lily nodded as if this made perfect sense. "Can I watch the video too?" Mira moved to sit beside them, and together they replayed Yasmin's message. Mira explained in simple terms about children who needed help and people who chose to provide it. Julian watched his daughter's face transform as she listened, saw the empathy that came so naturally to her, saw the seeds of the person she would become. He had almost missed this. All of it. The brownstone and the hot chocolate and the snowman in the backyard. The partnership with Mira and the work with the foundation. The chance to watch his daughter grow into someone kind and compassionate and strong. He had almost missed it because he had been too busy counting things that did not matter. That evening, after Lily was asleep and the Christmas tree lights cast gentle shadows on the walls, Julian sat alone in the living room. Mira had gone to bed early, tired from a long week of work, and the house was quiet. He reached for the journal Mira had given him 3 years ago. He had read it hundreds of times since that night, knew every entry by heart, but tonight he wanted to add something new. He found a blank page near the back and began to write, "For Lily, someday you will be old enough to understand this story, the story of who your father was and who he became. I will not hide my failures from you because I want you to know that change is possible, that even the most broken people can learn to heal if they are willing to do the work. Your mother saved me, not by taking me back or forgiving everything. Some things should not be easily forgiven. She saved me by showing me, that Christmas Eve when she could have simply walked away in silence, that I was worth the truth, that even someone as lost as I was deserved to know what I was losing." Julian paused, thinking about what he wanted to say next. "I hope you inherit her courage. I hope you inherit her compassion. And I hope, if you ever encounter someone as broken as I was, you will have the wisdom to recognize whether they are ready to change, and the strength to walk away if they are not. You are the gift I never expected, the gift that broke me open and taught me how to love. Dad." Julian closed the journal and looked out at the snow-covered street. Somewhere in this city, Yasmin Khalil was celebrating her graduation from medical school. Somewhere in this world, children were sleeping safely because Mira had refused to stop believing in impossible things. And here in this brownstone in Brooklyn, a man who had once measured everything in dollars and acquisitions had finally found something that could not be counted. Peace. Not the peace of having everything figured out. He still had work to do. Still had patterns to unlearn and relationships to nurture. Still had a lifetime of emotional unavailability to overcome. But peace nonetheless. The peace that came from knowing he was finally on the right path. From knowing that his daughter would grow up with a father who was present and engaged and capable of love. From knowing that the emptiness he had felt for so long was not permanent. That it could be filled with connection and purpose and meaning. Julian had spent the first 41 years of his life building an empire that meant nothing. He intended to spend the rest of his life building something that did. This story began with a billionaire CEO who thought he had everything figured out. A man who planned to hand his wife divorce papers on Christmas Day and expected her to crumble. Instead, she handed him a gift that shattered every assumption he had ever made. A journal full of evidence that the woman he had dismissed as simple and naive had been saving lives while he counted money. An ultrasound image proving that the child he thought he wanted was already on the way. Julian Ashford lost everything that night. His certainty, his arrogance, his carefully constructed identity as a man who was always right. And in losing those things, he found something better. A chance to become someone worthy of love. It took 3 years. 3 years of therapy and self-examination. 3 years of showing up and following through. 3 years of proving through action what he had promised in words. He never won Mira back. That door stayed closed, as she had insisted it would. But he won something more important. Her respect, her trust, her friendship, and he won the chance to be a father. A real father. Not the distant, emotionally unavailable kind that his own father had been, but a father who showed up, who listened, who taught his daughter that she was valued for who she was, not for what she achieved. If you are watching this and you see yourself in Julian, I want you to know something. It is not too late. It is not too late to look honestly at the person you have become. It is not too late to acknowledge the people you have hurt. It is not too late to start the difficult work of becoming someone different. Change is possible. I have seen it happen. I have heard the stories from people who thought they were beyond saving, who discovered that the very act of trying was enough to set them on a new path. But here is what I need you to understand. Change does not happen because you want it to. It happens because you work for it. Every single day, even when it is hard, even when you fail, even when it would be easier to slip back into old patterns. Julian Ashford did not become a different person because he felt bad about what he had done. He became a different person because he showed up to therapy twice a week, because he attended every doctor's appointment, because he joined the Horizon Project and let himself be broken open by what he saw. He became a different person because he made a choice. Not once, but thousands of times. The choice to be present instead of distant. The choice to listen instead of dismiss. The choice to give instead of take. And that is what I want to leave you with today. The understanding that redemption is not a single moment of breakthrough. It is a lifetime of choices. Small ones, consistent ones. Choices that add up over years and decades to a life that means something. Julian's daughter will grow up knowing that her father spent her childhood trying to be better. Not perfect. No one is perfect. But trying. That is what I hope for you too. Not perfection. Just the courage to try. If this story has moved you, please hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe if you want more stories about love, redemption, and the power of second chances. And leave a comment telling me what part of Julian's journey resonated with you most. Do you believe people like him can really change? I want to know what you think. Thank you for staying with me until the end. Your time is precious and I do not take it for granted. Until next time, remember this. The people we underestimate may be living the most extraordinary lives. The gifts we never expect may be the ones that transform us. And it is never, ever too late to become the person you were meant to be. Sometimes the greatest gifts come from our greatest losses. Sometimes the people who hurt us most are also capable of the most profound change. And sometimes love really can conquer all, not the easy love of compatible strangers, but the hard-won love of people who have seen each other at their worst and chosen to believe in each other's best. Julian and Mira learned that the hard way, but their story is stronger for having survived the test. Their daughter will grow up with living proof that families can be rebuilt, that people can grow, that love is always worth fighting for. In the end, the man who planned to throw away his wife discovered she was worth more than everything he had ever built. The billionaire who measured everything in dollars learned that the only currency that matters is connection. And the little girl building snowmen in a Brooklyn backyard will never doubt, not for a single moment, that she is loved. That is the gift Mira gave Julian on that Christmas Eve 3 years ago. Not just the truth about who she was, but the chance to discover who he could become. And that, my friends, is worth more than all the wealth in the world.